Okay everyone, today I thought I would share a video of me drawing a Final Fantasy XI Black Mage in its artifact gear. So here is the original that I kind of did after a request on the first video. I thought, oh yeah, it would be cool to do it. I have a lot of feelings for Final Fantasy XI, and Black Mage is a fun one, so I was like, oh, I'm going to do this drawing. But I ended up not liking it. I didn't plan well for the effects on the hands. So what you're seeing here is a little bit of trickery where I am using a light box and just kind of going to trace over my own drawing really quickly to make it go faster. For some reason for me, whenever I do this, the new drawing is just missing some life to it. Maybe every artist feels that way, I'm not sure, but for me, when I go through and trace over, it just feels a little more dead. So I really hate doing that. But at the same time, I didn't want to start over, and I knew this was kind of the pose that I wanted. This was based off of a real pose that they make when they're casting the Tarutaru race in it. So here we're seeing this sped up version of me throwing some inks, and this time I actually purposely just kind of did real dark, bold lines. I didn't try to do any finesse lines, because I wanted the light to be strong, and sometimes when using markers it's hard to do lighting effects, hence why the first one kind of went bad. So what you're seeing here is me throwing down some markers real quick and trying to kind of create some definition. And this time, unlike I did with the other one, I'm starting with the lighting effect up front, so I can remember, oh yeah, leave space for it, leave light, don't get too dark, all those kind of things you remind yourself while you're in the middle of being creative. So Final Fantasy XI is a very big deal for me and a number of my friends. It's a massive online game, and essentially we lived in it for a very long time and loved it to death. So there's going to be a lot of things about this drawing that are sappy, that only people who played the game might get, even though it's simple. It's the character and kind of one other thing in the background, which I'll explain a little more as it goes. But a little background: I played Final Fantasy XI for hours a day after work. I don't even know how many years, 7, 8 years, who knows. And to this day, we still love it, and we think about it, a lot. And it's different now, and your friends aren't there anymore, so it's kind of sad. But we'll kind of never forget those times, and they're really important. And I made a lot of good friends that I still play with to this day from Final Fantasy XI. And it was a very hard game. I wouldn't necessarily recommend anybody try to play it, even though it still is up. Because it's just, A, it's not the same, and B, it is just so tough. It's such a grind. But yeah, I think it came out, was it 2003? I'm not reading any notes, so don't hold me to any of that, but I think it was around 2003. I was living in up north in Traverse City, Michigan, and I hurt my foot, and a couple friends from work were like, hey, you should play this game. You played all the regular ones for the console, because I'm a huge Final Fantasy VII fan. And I thought, well, why not? I even bought a computer so it could handle it at the time, because at the time it was very stressful for the computers. So, but Black Mage was not my first choice. Summoner was, but you couldn't play Summoner at first. So then I did Bard and a couple other jobs. Kind of found out Summoner wasn't as cool as I thought it would be for a long time. And it eventually got there. Right now, if you were to play the game, Summoner's pretty awesome. But Black Mage always did have a special place in my heart. I have leveled it to 75 and then 99 on a couple different jobs, or a couple of different characters, excuse me. And I have one character that has every job, 99 and all that. So it's still relevant somehow. But going back to the art, you can see that I'm starting to fill in some of the colors, and similar to the other process, I'm going to do kind of basic colors in the markers, and then go to some color pencils to just get little details and finesse the image a little bit. I was really trying to play with light in this one, as far as like the reflection from the energy that he's creating in front of himself. So um, I actually wish I didn't do what I'm doing right now, where I filled it in so dark, and I'll try to bring that back out later on with some lighter colored pencils in the white. And it should be noted, when you use white colored pencil, white in general, even white paint, you mix a lot of white paint in your stuff. It really drives some artists nuts, because it gets a I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it gets a almost on this, for color pencil, it gets almost a chalky look to it, and it's not pleasant to the eye. It's not a pure mix, especially with paints. And of course, all of us do it probably more than we should, but that's how we fix, mistakes. And sorry for the image being a little low on the camera here, but I get into it and I forget and start sliding the page all over and twisting and turning, which is kind of interesting. You don't notice yourself doing it until you come back. So you can see I left a lot of white here, and I'm just trying to purposely dull out the image. Just the colors on the actual outfit would be almost on the pants, for example, almost stripes, where it's like a darker tan, then a lighter tan, then a darker tan, and instead I'm just trying to put just a little bit of the color and dull it out a little bit, so it looks like the light is kind of reflecting in those ripples, and so you're only really seeing the color in the shadow part of the folds of the cloth. And trying to play with the forward arm actually wouldn't be in the light cast from him, so I'm trying to make that a little darker, and you'll see I'll try to play with it. So what I'm working on in the background right now is called the home point, or telepoint crystal. There's a couple different words that we use for it when we play the game, and it's this is where the image gets a little bit sappy. Everybody that knows me knows I don't like to talk about images and explain it, but that's what this is all about, right? It's cathartic, right? So what you're seeing here is, it's your home point, and in this image you're going to see that the character has his back to his own home point. And the way that it worked in the game was, that's where if you died, you could either get raised if there was a caster around that could raise you, or a black mage could send you to that home point. And since we're looking at a black mage, it's kind of very appropriate. But the idea is that he's got his back to it. Some of the kind of reference in it is supposed to be that it's kind of eventually going to be more sunny back there by the home point, and the grass is going to be a little bit greener, whereas the grass the black mage is going to be standing in is like black, and you could read it as, oh, that's just his shadow. Well, not really, because the light's coming so strong from him. So if that was appropriate, it wouldn't have been. So, and I'm not gonna lie, looking at this right now, like the way I did the crystals and stuff, you're like, what are you doing with this? Those shapes and stuff. Keep in mind, that's all going to be fleshed out, and that's all part of the process. So if you're doing your own art and you're like, man, this is looking really ugly, just remember there's layers, and the layers are coming, and you can see, even throwing the little bit of darker green already, you're like, oh yeah, that's some grass going on. And you can see I'm letting a little bit of grass come out around the shadows that he's casting. And again, keep in mind, that should be light underneath him. He's holding a big, strong light in front of him. So there's some things to think about when you look at the image. And like I said, I normally don't like to kind of talk about that stuff, and I like to let people know and find out their little secrets on their own. But I thought it would be kind of cool to point this out. Eventually there will be a little bit of a tear coming to him too, and the whole idea is that, like, we can never go back to the game, and it'll never be the way that we once knew it, and we still love it, and it still makes us happy to think about and talk about. But it is in the past. And then when you, the whole metaphor of life in general, of course, right? But then also when we start talking about it, you know, it was really a pain, and you had to sit around and wait for your friends, and you never really got to do everything you wanted to do, and there's all these negative things that come through it when you start talking about it. But the truth is it was beautiful, and it's people who got to experience it, you know, oftentimes are very passionate about it. If you Google videos, there's on YouTube, there's just tons of videos about this game, and people still always refer to it. Even in the new version in Final Fantasy 14, they talk about it all the time. So it's definitely got its own little following, and of course those people are all growing up. But I'm trying to use the white pencil to give a little bit more of the reflection coming on the clothes there, on the artifact gear. So it is a little washed out and chalky, but that's kind of on purpose to just show the reflection and the intensity of the light. So hopefully that reads okay. I tried to use the colored pencil to like bring back some of the real color of the gear, which is probably slightly a little more purple than you would want. I think the marker was actually the closest to the real color of artifact gear, but you know, the colored pencil kind of brought it in, and it looks pretty cool that way. I wouldn't say it's authentic, but it's definitely cool. Another thing to note in this image is that the staff that he's wearing on his back is not arbitrary. It is a Terra staff, which was in the game -20 damage taken. So he's protecting himself on his back. He's got one of the strongest things a mage could keep equipped so that they wouldn't be hurt. So I'll let you, you know, fill in the blanks as far as what you think about that. But the gloves, for example, are not the artifact gear. The rest of the gear is his artifact gear, but his gloves are in fact like a zenith, I think is what they were called. And every black mage in the early days would want to use those mitts because they were the best for nuking and doing damage. So I was like, I can't just have them in the regular mitts. The regular mitts didn't look as cool, and they don't give you that warm feeling of being like, oh man, that's not what they would wear. You know, you'd just be like, no, that's not what they would wear. They would have these mitts because they were, you know, 5 magic damage, which was a lot back then. So I imagine most people watching this video don't know what I'm ranting on about, but one of my friends told me I should probably talk about the actual image and why I'm drawing it, and I thought that was maybe a good idea. So right now I'm kind of popping out the outlines a little bit, just to create some depth from the background, and I'll bring it up onto the main character here, the Tarutaru, just to create a little bit of depth and show that he's, you know, separated from this background. So hopefully it reads that way. All in all, it's fun to do these little sketches. I think this one took a couple hours over time. I had to do it on a couple different shifts, but I enjoyed it. Right away, I don't like those little highlights that I put in there, so I started trying to dull them back out. But it's definitely fun, and I like doing art for Final Fantasy XI. I rarely do it because, you know, when you do that kind of art, you need to stay true to the actual image. Like, for example, he's kind of in this weird stiff pose. Well, that's because the game's old, and that's how they posed in that. So you're kind of stuck in the confines of that, and I kind of like to be more creative. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the tale, and hopefully you enjoy the image. I really appreciate you guys checking out the video, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you. So I do kind of like where the image left off. There was a few things I wanted to sharpen up, but as I told you guys in my very first video, sometimes you need somebody to hit you over the head and tell you when you're done. So something that I like to do is go back and see if I can spruce it up a little bit, and I felt like I didn't put enough kind of effects, like little touches to make it seem like things are sparkling, and overall the image was kind of cool looking, but a little flat. So I decided to take a little bit of time and kind of just sharpen up a few things and add effects. Some of them I like, some of them I don't, and a lot of times it's about pushing yourself and challenging yourself to, just see what you can do, see if you can take to the next level, and that way you learn for a further image. And a couple of my friends will tell you that I always say, don't be precious with your artwork, don't be scared to ruin it. So this one started with a bad thing, it kind of ends with a maybe mediocre thing. I kind of like it, kind of don't. I learned a little bit about the way that I tried to make these sparkle a little bit. I think it's kind of cool, but I don't know, the way it was originally was kind of cool as well. So anyway, I went in with the white pen a little bit, which these are the white gel pens. I'm not a huge fan of them. They're not precise enough. I believe that they're a ballpoint, so just like when drawing with a ballpoint pen, it's not a smooth flowing, and that part I kind of don't like. But it's readily available and has a nice precision as well. So I decided to go ahead and use it. It's more out of convenience. It would probably be better to pull out like a brush and use some sort of either like liquid whiteout or white paint would probably be better. But I don't know, it's kind of fun. And what you can see is I took that telecrystal that I talked about earlier and kind of put some white glitter on the image. It's kind of hard to tell. It seems very subtle in the I think in the footage here, but yeah, I put more of a white kind of shimmer to it, and there's white dots going in throughout, and then added a little bit more of the blue dots as well to kind of make it kick out. And I put some of that same shimmer around the energy in front, and then kind of use some of the color to dull them out a little bit so it's not so striking and just pure white. Another thing about using those kind of gel pens is that the color doesn't want to go back over it. It's I don't know if it's shiny. Something about it is where things don't want to kind of hold on to color, or it itself doesn't want to hold on to color. Definitely not like paper. You can see I'm sharpening up some of the black lines to make them pop out a little bit more. Even the black pen doesn't really want to go on some of this the gel pen. You can see I'm just trying to work out the background a little bit and just kind of make it look cool. I think and that's something you should always ask yourself. Can I make it look more cool? Can I do something that's going to push me beyond that people will be like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. I didn't think to do that. And always trying to push forward. So probably the thing I like the most is it did kind of fix some of the blue spikies on the ground a little bit. Again, it's kind of hard to make out on this image that I'm watching here. Hopefully it'll look good in the final video, but yeah, overall I'm fairly happy with the image, especially for the amount of time that we spent, and definitely from starting off with one that you weren't too proud of, and kind of making something cool out of it, and trying to keep your own style but still make it obvious that it's a Tarutaru Black Mage from Final Fantasy XI. That's kind of the hard part. So here I'm going to take the camera and just kind of show the image, zoom in a little bit and kind of move around a bit to try to get a little better shot of what's going on. But again, I thought I'd show you kind of the fun end part of my process. So thank you.